The iPhone 16e is not the phone I would personally choose, but that really isn't the point of this video. The phone's been out for almost a year now, and at the retail price of $599, I think it's pretty clear to almost anybody in tech, it's not a very good deal. I'm not the first person to say that, far from it, potentially the last. But what I wanted to focus on more in this video specifically is why the phone still could make sense for some people, and specifically how the phone is now being sold on Amazon, renewed, for often less than $400. I think if we're looking at the iPhone 16e as a $400 phone, not a $600 phone, the equation changes pretty drastically. And that's what I want to focus on here. So, in full transparency, this 16e we're reviewing was purchased brand new. However, after reading some of the reviews of the renewed model on Amazon, they're pretty favorable, with currently about a 4.5 star average, so I do feel comfortable taking that approach. If we're talking about the 16e's design, I think what I'd first say is it's a throwback. You have a notch, you have big bezels, but perhaps more pleasantly, and more to my taste, you have one camera on the back. I personally felt when iPhones first made the change to having two cameras, I never really thought it looked very good. And now, the three cameras on the back, while very functional perhaps, I've always thought it looked kind of weird. I've never really loved how phones having multiple cameras on the back looks. So having that one camera design, reminiscent of the iPhone Air that I reviewed recently, looks pretty cool. It looks very clean, and to me, that aesthetic appeal is something to consider. With that said, the rest of the design, as I already mentioned, is pretty dated, having now used Pro iPhones since 2021 when I got an iPhone 13 Pro Max, later switching to the 16 Pro, and just finishing reviews of the 17, 17 Pro, and Air. I'm used to 120Hz screens. This screen on the 16e is 60Hz. And if you're coming from a phone with a 120Hz panel, be prepared to feel disappointed. This feels significantly worse than I expected. And as you probably heard other reviewers explain, you do get used to it eventually, though I would say in my experience it took over a week for that to happen. 60Hz isn't technically a low refresh rate. I know that was completely standard on screen types of essentially all types of devices for years. At this point though, I feel like, at least with phones, it really does feel too slow, and that is something to consider. However, I do feel like a lot of people buying the 16e have probably never used a 120Hz phone before. They may be coming from an older phone like an iPhone 11 or perhaps something even older. So if you're in that situation, especially if you're coming from a non-OLED phone or a non-OLED iPhone, because I do feel most people considering the 16e are probably already coming from an iPhone, I think you actually may be pleasantly surprised in some ways with this screen. It's OLED. So what that means is that the blacks are essentially perfect. The screen has very vibrant colors and is overall very bright. So for watching content, for just using your phone, the screen itself is actually a very high quality despite that refresh rate. As far as the performance goes, we are dealing with a very high performance chip here from Apple. It is slightly binned. So what that means is it's not getting the exact same performance as the iPhone 16 that came out around the same time. But to be honest, it's more than good enough. There was no moment using this phone where I felt that it was slow, besides that refresh rate that I talked about that was annoying earlier. Overall, this is a very powerful chip, and the main reason you'd consider it, in my opinion, is because it means this phone will get updates for years to come. That is probably one of the best things about Apple, is that they update these iPhones for years and years. I'm someone who personally doesn't want to keep a phone for more than 3 years. I'm just a nitpicker and I love tech. But I know many people do decide to keep their phones, especially iPhones, for much longer. And I feel like you can feel comfortable knowing that if you get a phone like the 16e, it is going to last for a long time, continue to receive updates, and what that also means is the phone will be safer. If a phone is not getting any updates, not even security updates, it does become a risk for hacking and for other type of cybersecurity related concerns. So with the iPhone, especially one that's receiving updates, that really isn't something you have to worry about in general. With that said, the speakers here are also quite good. Something that I didn't like about the iPhone Air that I mentioned in my previous review is that the speakers are pretty poor because there's only one. That isn't the case here with the 16E. You have a full speaker you'd expect on a modern iPhone, and I think that is relevant for many people. Many of us do listen to music sometimes on our phone. We especially like to watch videos like YouTube videos or Instagram Reels. Having a good speaker can certainly be useful. So with all that in mind, I mentioned in the beginning this really isn't the phone for me. So who is this phone for? I would say it's specifically for someone who wants to either stay in the Apple ecosystem or enter the Apple ecosystem at a lower price. Part of what's changed so drastically in recent years is that Apple products have largely become a lot cheaper. To be clear, not all of them. There are still plenty of Apple products with ridiculous pricing structures. I'm thinking the Apple Studio display as an example. But what's really quite cool now is you could get yourself a MacBook Air, an M4 MacBook Air, which at the time of recording is often on sale for $750 or $800. That's an incredibly powerful computer that for most people is far more than good enough. You could get yourself AirPods, the brand new AirPods 4, which are often on sale for around $100, even as low as $80 or $90. And then you get yourself this renewed iPhone 16e on Amazon, as I mentioned, for, at least at the time of recording, $400 or less. And this is a tired point. I'm not the first person to make it. Many people do want to have iMessage. They want to have FaceTime. They want to be able to use iCloud. For better and often for worse, Apple's made sure this is something that people, especially in the United States, really want. And I remember when I first got my first iPhone, an iPhone SE back in 2016, the original model, after having used exclusively Android phones up until that point, it was pretty cool to finally be in the Apple ecosystem. So if that's the reason you're considering this phone, good news is, yes, it will work just fine for that. Overall, those are my thoughts on the iPhone 16e. If you are interested in buying it, we have Amazon affiliate links in the description. To clarify what that means, you don't pay any extra price for the phone, but you do support our work at no extra cost. Stay tuned to Erickson Films for more technology reviews, and thank you for watching.